What's poppin', y'all? The news has come out that Silento, one of the biggest child songs of all time on Nickelodeon, all of that, just got 30 years in prison. Now, for those that are unfamiliar, Silento was the guy that made the song Watch Me Whip, Watch Me Nae-Nae. I think he was in high school at the time, and he just took a plea deal for guilty. He just took a plea deal to take 30 years. Otherwise, he was facing life. And it's a really scary situation. I did a video on this several years ago that covered this case, and he had been in jail since then. So probably at least 3+ years, 2 to 3 years right now, he's just been in jail awaiting trial. And no bond, no bail, and he just took this plea deal. So we're not going to see him for 30 years. Keep in mind, Silento currently is only 27 years old. And 4 years ago, when this happened, he was 24, 23. The guy peaked at 18. So really, I think it makes sense he took this deal. 30 years, get out 57. Well, maybe get out younger, in his 50s. I don't know how it works on the time when it comes to that. But first, I'm going to play you guys the clip from the previous video that I did on this, where I get into detail of the actual legal problem of the murder of his cousin, actually. And then we're going to talk about some other legal problems he was going through at the same time. It was January 21st when police officers responded to the call in the residential area in DeKalb County, Georgia. The witnesses said something about hearing gunshots. When the police arrived at the scene, they found Frederick Roots bleeding on the street from being shot in the face and the leg. In no time, he was pronounced dead at 3 a.m. Detectives who arrived at the scene gathered security videos from the homes in the neighborhood, which showed several cars that were quickly driving away from the crime scene. Also, those videos captured at least one gunshot. Near the body, detectives found 8 bullet casings. At that moment, it wasn't clear who was the main suspect and what was the motive of the crime. But soon after, police determined that Silento was a suspect and probably committed the crime. It remained unclear how police found out that it was Silento. On the police department's Twitter page appeared an announcement. On January 21st, the DeKalb County Police Department investigated Rook's death after he was found shot on Deep Shoals Circle. Hawk is in DeKalb County Jail charged with murder. After Silento was arrested, his publicist, Chanel Hudson, published the following statement on his Instagram page. "Please send my client Silento some positive vibration. Over the past several years, Ricky has been suffering immensely from a series of mental health illnesses. We will continue in his efforts of treatment, but we ask in the meantime that the public uplift him and his family in immediate prayer and positive energy. Ricky's a beautiful soul, and we hope that the same people who came up whipping and nae-naeing with him continue to support him and be lifted in prayer. God bless." In the post description, she expressed her hopes that this situation would pass, as well as all previous ones. Chanel Hudson asserted that she had a very close relationship with her client, Ricky. She said that she was well aware of his mental health issues, specifically his struggles with anxiety and depression. But to her dissatisfaction, Silento was not consistent about getting better and resolving those problems. Chanel said that she believed that the case against her client was based on some shaky evidence, and she stated that the justice system would decide Silento's fate. No matter what his charges are, he's a human being, and it doesn't cost anything to pray for him and his family or send him positive vibrations. I hope people continue to have a little empathy. Hudson added at the time, former legal guardians and Ricky's attorney were assembling his criminal defense team, and the lawyer was constantly in touch with Silento in jail. Moreover, Chanel Hudson explained that in the last couple of years, presumably from the appearance of the first legal problem, she was trying to humanize Silento. She said that in May of 2019, she booked him on the daytime talk show The Doctors, where Silento got the chance to talk extensively about having mental issues. That wasn't a situation where he just showed up and sat down for 30 minutes. He did a psychological evaluation ahead of time. It was a 4 or 5 day process. While being on the show, Silento explained that he was already born with marijuana, cocaine, and heroin in his system. He mentioned his struggles with anxiety and depression and said that it was highly likely that he was prescribed ADHD medication by mistake. I don't know if these demons will ever go away. Chanel also pointed out the fact that Ricky was suffering from depression wasn't based on him being a failure. Quite the opposite, Silento was traveling around the globe, frequently performing, and making constant appearances on various children's television shows and programs. But when the pandemic took over, Silento broke to pieces and allegedly attempted suicide at the beginning of 2020. But unfortunately, nobody was really paying too much attention to what was happening to him. And after that suicide attempt, Silento showed some signs of destructive behavior and was arrested 3 times, each one getting more attention than the last. Despite that, bond on the current case was denied. Chanel Hudson stated that she planned to continue supporting Ricky because he supported her as well when she needed that. I will not turn my back on him. I bet in some way, shape, or form, he's writing about his experience. On February 1st, Silento was charged with malice murder and felony murder. In a few months, Silento was booked into an Illinois jail on 1 count of murder. At the court hearing on June 9th, the judge looked over his mental health history and stated that he was a danger to society. Prosecutors on the cases stated that Ricky's grandparents wished their grandkid would stay in prison to prevent him from being a threat to himself and other people. And on August 3rd, he was indicted on charges of malice murder, felony murder, aggravated assault, and possession of a firearm while committing a felony. His trial is yet to begin, and he has not yet taken any guilty plea. But it's one shocking turn of events that the man who created one of the biggest children's songs of the last decade is now facing life in prison at the young age of 24. So this was quite a horrifying case. I mean, you had his publicist trying to defend him, saying he suffered from mental health, but I'm inclined to believe it, but not just say that. I don't know, we didn't see him get a mental evaluation. Maybe he would have taken an insanity plea if there was some level of validity to the claims of actual mental health in terms of like mental illnesses, not just like, oh, depression, bipolar, but actual episodes, mania, psychosis, something like that. But he had been going through legal issues since 2017. And there were business, like for example, he was arrested and held from leaving the UAE, which is where Dubai is, the country where Dubai is, because he didn't even show up for 2 shows that he had to perform on February 18th. So they said that they wanted to get their money back. So they were holding the guy. They didn't publicize it. They wanted to get paid because they're like, hold on, a rapper is going to think he's going to play us, not show up to the shows, not do the performance, and take the money. Hell no, he not leaving the country. But they still did him that courtesy of keeping it low key. And the amount that he took was $81,500. So he had to pay that much, and that's how much they were booking him for 2 shows. So back in 2017, he was getting booked for 40 bands a show, which isn't too bad, but you would think like that's around the time that song was going crazy, like 2016 or so. That's how I remember it. About 10 years ago, he was 16 or 17. Yeah, only 40K, huh? So he wasn't able to pay that amount, so he had to give them his passport until the money got paid. And then there started to be this back and forth between Silento and the promoter that said he didn't cancel any shows. He just knew that he just found out that there's a problem against him, that he's not allowed to leave the country. So that was really weird. Eventually, he was able to leave. But in 2020, he was getting arrested again. So there was a DV incident where he got charged with a felony, and then he posted bond that same day. And then there were some disturbing photos that got leaked of Silento where he was wandering the streets with a hatchet. And he walked into a random home looking for his girlfriend. This is after the DV incident, and this is after he got out on bond. And the photos were of Silento's behind, his derriere. Yes, it was. I didn't see them. Thank God I did not see them. I'm one of those people where I see people talking about like, yo, there's no way y'all saw this. I'm so glad I didn't see this. And they're referencing some person or some image. I'm like, okay, it's time for me to get off, reset for 16 to 20 hours because I don't want to keep scrolling the timeline and get it. I believe in learning from other people's mistakes. I do not believe in that whole curiosity. Like, oh, I got to see what that looks like for myself. Nah, I'm good off of that. I don't need to see what it looks like myself. And this is the thing. Silento's life was saved in that instance because one of the people in the home that Silento walked into had a gun, and they did not shoot him. So he got chased back by the police, and then he got taken into custody and posted bail again. He got charged with assault with a deadly weapon, 2 counts of that. And there was another incident where he was speeding for like 143 miles per hour, and this was just a crazy crash out. It's just so unbelievable to me that he would do something like this. But at the same time, the more that I think about it, The guy blew up at 16 years old. It was overnight success. It was a Vine song. It was a dance song. You know how dance song and Vine songs go. Like, for example, let me give you guys an example of dancers that they were doing their own crash outs in other countries. Like Ayo and Teo, right? That song, Rolex. That song has blown up multiple generations. But that song was huge. And these guys they were dancers. And they were doing shows for years, man. I don't know if they're still doing shows, but they were doing shows for years as kids. And they were tweaking out. Like, they got a lot of bad press, but it was overseas. So when they were out in China, Thailand, things like that, where they were getting booked, and I think even Korea, they were getting bad press. People were like, yo, these guys are being disrespectful. They're tweaking out. They were just saying disrespectful stuff, wilding out. I think potentially even doing some illegal stuff. Now imagine, Ayo and Teo Rolex was one thing. Now imagine Watch Me Whip Nae-Nae. Granted, Watch Me Whip Nae-Nae was the most kid-friendly song ever, but that went top 3 on Billboard Hot 100. As opposed to Ayo and Teo, who, I don't even know if did that song hit top 40? I don't know, but I enjoyed Rolex more personally. When that song came out, I was like, whoa, this is fire. So this guy was killing it, but I think there was frustration for Silento when he became the quintessential one-hit wonder. You're the Watch Me Whip Nae-Nae guy. And this was, like, I think they put it in Fortnite. I'm not sure. But I think the inability to follow up with another song. He wasn't necessarily a skilled dancer. Like Ayo and Teo, those guys were actually dancing and, putting out a show, performances. Silento, he just had a simple dance, and it was just a mixture of two dances that already existed. So he wasn't the greatest rapper. He wasn't the greatest dancer. I don't even know if he was much of a dancer, and that song had run its course, but they stretched that song for like 4 years. By the time that ends, it's 2020, and I think he's just down bad. He's an adult now. He's 20 years old. The peak of his life is over. Like, we're kind of seeing that with Lil Pump, or we saw that a little bit more with Lil Pump, where you're like, whoa, this guy's acting similarly to when he was 16, 17, but he's 25 now. I don't know if we really want to see that. Granted, Lil Pump has avoided legal issues like this guy, but I think it broke Silento's mind, and he may have been suffering from some like abuse stuff when he was younger, because the degree to which this guy was wilding out is not even like he was doing attention-seeking behavior. He was doing things behind the scenes. Like, he wasn't showing up to these shows, allegedly. He was doing DV, which is wild. And then he catches a body. Like, Silento is one of the freakiest cases. They're going to need to do... We need Vlad or somebody to do an interview with him behind bars, because I just need to know the mind state of this guy. Like, he took his plea. Once that's all said and done and he's there, we need a psych eval of him, and we need a Vlad interview or some documentary. There's definitely going to be huge documentaries done about this, because this is a child star, and not a child star as in like, oh yeah, he grew up in Disney or Nickelodeon. Like, this was a self-made teenager that had the biggest song that every single kid loved. I don't even know if they're playing that song anymore, or they blackballed the song due to what happened with him. But Nickelodeon licensing it, huge networks, and then he catches a body and he's doing 30 years. Like, we need the full story on that, and hopefully we're going to get that soon. But let me know what y'all think in the comments. Like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell if you enjoyed, and I'm going to see y'all on the next one.